Plantain is very common, and we can use it as spinach, but it does taste bitter. In late summer, it's got a seed spike here, which is full of seeds. Now these seeds contain oil. If we put these in the soup, we're going to get good nutritional value. We can also use alder plant medicinally, where if we put it on a wound, it does help stop bleeding. Mint is an excellent flavouring when we add it to our stew. It's easily identified by its distinctive smell. We can also use it medicinally if we mix it with charcoal and take it for an upset stomach. The charcoal helps to draw the toxins, and the mint settles the stomach. The stinging nettle is an excellent source of nourishment. It's plentiful and it's easily identified. If you brush against it, you get stung, and the best way to remedy that is take a pinch of the plant, crush it, and rub it on the stung part. Now, the stinging sensation is caused by formic acid, and as soon as we boil this, that's eliminated. Now, the nettle contains vitamins and minerals, and we make a nettle tea by taking a handful of the leaf, boil it, and if we drink this, it's full of iron and it's good pick-me-up. The dried stems are really tough and can be used as twine. Also, if we want to dye our clothing green, we just put it in with a selection of leaf, boil it all together, and we finish up with an olive drab material. You can make a useful tea using pine needles. Pine needles contain vitamins, especially vitamin C. Take a pint of water and boil it, allow it to cool. Take a handful of pine needles and let them seep in the water. Now don't boil the needles in the water, otherwise you'll destroy the vitamin content. Now when you're feeling weak and lethargic, try some pine needle tea because it acts as a stimulant and a tonic. It's a pick-me-up. Also, while you're by the edge of a wood, have a look around, you might find some useful fungi. Fungi come above plants on a nutritional ladder. Pound for pound, they've got more nourishment. However, with plants, we've got an edibility test. With fungi, it must be one of positive recognition. If you're not sure, leave them alone. Now, fungi is just a plant without chlorophyll, so consequently, it must feed on dead or decaying matter. Now, the big drawback with fungi is some are deadly. Just here, we've got the worst case, the Amanita phalloides, or the death cat. Now, this has got the following characteristics. It's got a vulva, it's got a ring, it's got white gills. Now, the season for this is summer, late autumn. You never find it in pastures or meadows, only in or around woodlands. Now, there's three bad things about this fungi. One, it smells of raw potatoes, so it's a familiar smell. Secondly, it tastes sweet. Thirdly, and the worst case, nothing happens after eating between 5 and 18 hours. What it is a series of alkaloids, and when it mixes with your body chemistry, it sets up toxins. And these are distributed in every cell of the body. So you must get medical attention quickly. The Amanita phalloides accounts for 90% of all fatalities due to fungi poisoning. The first living thing an injured person in a survival situation can obtain are insects. They are plentiful and give us good protein. Things like worms, ants, termites are excellent eating. Every primitive tribe in the world, they recognise this fact and they consider them as delicacies. Here we've got an anthill, and if we just dig down, we can obtain the ants. What we do is get this, put it in water and let them float to the top, skim them off, then we boil them, and ants contain formic acid, just like nettles, and boiling gets rid of this toxin.
Lofty, you told us that we need to boil nettles to destroy formic acid. Do we need to then drain off the water, or can we drink that too?
No, Steve, it's important that we do drink the water. Okay, it's a contact poison and heat destroys it. And so what we're getting then, if we drink all the water, is all the minerals and the vitamins, all the nourishment, and it acts as a tonic. So it's important that we do drink the water.
You also mentioned soluble and non-soluble poisons. Can you expand on this?
Okay, well, in the case of, say, nettles, taro, and a lot of other roots, unless we boil them, they are toxic. But the poison is destroyed by heat. And so we must make sure, whatever we're going to cook, that it is edible. Because if it's not water-soluble, like rhubarb leaves, what we do is concentrate the poison and make a lethal poison. And so we must know what we're cooking. and if it's water soluble, no problems, heat destroys it, but if it's not, it just concentrates the poison.
Okay, got to have some knowledge here before you
Sure.
go ahead. Lofty, the thought of eating insects is pretty disgusting to most of us. How hungry do you have to be?
Well, after a couple of days, you start looking forward to anything. Now, in the case of a worm is 75% of the highest protein available. And it's just a matter of, okay, digging for them, finding them. And I don't expect anyone to eat a worm as it is. So what we do, we purge them for 24 hours, i.e. we put them somewhere where they can't eat, so all the waste passes through them, and then we dry them, either in the sun or by the side of a fire. And they go real hard, just like bacon rind. And then we grind this up into a powder, and we can then add that to our soup or our stews, and we get all that nourishment. And so we mustn't overlook anything. Now, in places like the jungle, you find termites. Now, termites, we can break the nest down, okay, put it in water, and all the insects float to the top with their eggs. We skim these off, and we can boil these and cook them. Also, we can hang a piece of the termite's nest above the water, and as all the insects fall in the water, they're ground baiting it, they're attracting all the fish. And so then we start baiting our hooks with the termite's eggs, and then we can start pulling the fish out. And also with the termite's nest, we can place it on the fire, and it gives off a real thick smoke, so it keeps all the other flying insects away like mosquitoes, and it keeps the fire burning all through the night. So there is a real good place for insects in survival. Every primitive tribe in the world, they realize this, and they consider insects as delicacies.
Well, I hope I never find myself in a situation where I have to resort to your insect recipes. But if I do, I'm ready. Okay, so far we've talked about the acquisition of water and some kinds of food, plants, fungi, and insects. I'm much more interested in acquiring fish and game, and that's what we'll talk about in the next part of our outdoor survival program.
This looks a great spot for fishing. Remember, fish is fourth on the nutritional ladder. We've already had plants, fungi and insects, and fish are an excellent source of food. Now, unlike game, we do not have to mask our scent, and fish are quite easy to catch. The methods we're going to use are nightline and a gill net. Now, for the nightline, we must have bait, and the best bait are worms. Let's see if we can find some worms. To find worms, we want to come away from the water's edge, because worms like well-drained soil. To find worms, we want to look under rocks, stumps, or even dig down in good earth. This looks a likely spot. Let's have a check under the rocks. Okay, there's a worm. Now, fish like worms because 1, they're full of protein, 2, the movement when they're in the water attracts them, and 3, they're plentiful. Let's go and bait our nightline. This is a nightline. It's a length of parachute cord, weighted at one end with a rock, and coming off it at 3-foot intervals are fish line, hooks, baited with a worm. Take your line out from your survival tin, attach it to the line, bait the hook with a worm, and now we're ready to fish for ground feeders, mid feeders and surface feeders. Now the top line has also been known to take water birds. We're ready now. Let's go and launch it in the lake. Make sure it's securely anchored, because we're going to get a lot of fish on this line. This is a gill net. We place this vertically in the water and we securely anchor it on either bank. And small fish and large fish are tangled in the net. The small fish get tangled by the gills, that's why we call it a gill net. Now all of this, it rolls up very small, so we should include it in our survival kit.